Hey guys, welcome to episode number 5 of Rack and Rod Chronicles. We wanted to push one more video out before the end of the year. Finish really strong for 2019, and hopefully you guys will enjoy what we have in store coming for 2020. So the other day on Instagram and Facebook, I posted that RIO Products out of Idaho had sent us a package of some of their new line and leader to match along with it. So wanted to bring you an in the office review of the line. We did get it spooled up, and we did get to fish it a little bit yesterday. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties with our camera, and the video that we did, unfortunately, I couldn't use, so we will be refilming the fishing portion of the review. But it did give me a little bit more insight on the line to give you a good review here in the office, besides being out on the water with it. So we're gonna bring it right up here to the camera. So this is the line they sent us. This is Rio Euro Nymph. It's a specialty series. It is FIPS regulated, so it is an okay competition line. And as I mentioned the other day on Facebook, back I'm gonna guess probably 8 or 9 years ago, I did compete on a fly fishing circuit, so very familiar with this style of line and how it is fished. This line is specifically meant for the Euro Style Nymphing, Czech, Polish, Spanish, whatever nationality you'd like to call it. But it's normally with a longer rod, a 0 to 5 weight type line, and this particular line is a 2 to 5 weight. And once we open the box up, one thing I have noticed with a lot of the competition style lines is they're always a very specific color. But what Rio did with this line was make it a little more unique. So it's kind of a tri-colored line. It's going to be an orange butt end that connects to your backing, an orange front end where it connects to your leader, and then a bicolor in the middle. So it's a darker sage green towards the back body of the line and a sage green in the head. One really big feature that this line has that I loved was the fact that it has welded loops on both ends. So you've got a loop on the side going to your backing and a loop going to your leader. So it really makes connecting everything much easier. So the ability to interchange lines in a situation where if you're fishing moving water, river, stream, this is the style line you're going to want. A lot of guys, when they fish still water in competition, will change their line up depending on the flies they're using. So this line in particular makes it super easy. Just peel it down to the backing, unhook your loops, bring in your new line, and you're ready to fish still water. The pink, here it is spooled up, but the pink or orange there on the front end is really nice. It eliminates the ability to have to put a really long sighter on your tippet or leader. And along with the line, they also sent us the Technical Euro Nymph 14-foot leader, which is tapered 2x to 4x, and it is a bicolor sighter in there as well. Now they wonderfully sent 2 of those for us. And if I can get down to the end of, so it's probably a little harder to see on camera here. It's a little bit easier to see on the water. But the leader also has sighter built into it. It's part of the taper. And the really big bonus, it's probably really difficult to see, but they did include a tippet ring on the end of the leader. So this was a lifesaver yesterday while we were trying to film fishing line, because we did have to make a couple different changes for some different sections of the water. Kind of turn the reel sideways here so you can kind of see some of that color. So you've got the sage green right here, and the sage, and then that lighter olive type green, which was phenomenal, super easy to see. Just made fishing it so much easier. Every competition line I've ever dealt with was that one solid color. And what I would do is when I was building my leaders, I would actually take a piece of bright colored mono in heavy type poundage as the butt section of my leader and tie it so that way I knew where the tip of my line was. So this in particular line is a overall length of 80 feet, and you've got a 15-foot taper on both ends with a 49-foot body, and then 6-foot taper in that section that's pink with your loops. I was totally impressed by the turnover of this line, for the fact that a lot of the other lines that I used when I was competing was I never kind of let it all the way out of my rod. So I fish an 11-foot type competition rod. It's a 2-weight made by Loop, and the problem I had with every other line that I used, and they were not RIO lines, was if I was throwing a super heavy fly, you have to remember most competition flies are either heavily leaded or they have tungsten heads on them. To get deep down as fast as you can, you have to remember in competition you're trying to fish a very short section of water in a minimum amount of time and catch as many fish as you possibly can. So the fact that I was throwing some pretty heavy flies yesterday, this line had no problem turning them over and laying it out, that making that leader, you know, unfold into the water correctly. So that was a huge plus from my end, the fact that my flies weren't crashing into the water. And there are certain times when that's okay. You're bank fishing, you're fishing, you know, in a eddy behind a big rock. You know, that splash sometimes signifies to fish, hey, there's food in the water. This line was phenomenal in all aspects. It reacted great in the water. It reacted great casting. You know, having the built-in orange-pink color at the tip was great, because even if I only had a little bit of line out of the rod, I at least knew where I was at. I can follow my leader. In some of the deep holes, my sighter was still underwater until it got to about 11 o'clock position in front of me. So it was super hard, you know, to always keep visible of the leader, because I wanted to fish it the way they sent it. So basically I had the 14 feet attached to their line, the Euro Nymph line, and then I just tied about a 20-inch section of tippet onto that tippet ring with 2 flies. So I had a dropper and then a base fly. The base fly was the heavier fly, and that kept my second fly afloat. Leader on a couple fish that we did bump, I felt everything through the line. Excuse me. And the leader, even after getting snagged in a branch, I thought for sure I was going to have to cut it. The leader withstood me yanking it off the branch. I checked it, made sure there was no nicks in it, and we did hook into a couple, and the leader withstood everything. So like I said, we're going to get back out and fish and refilm. So I do apologize for not having fishing as part of this video. But this line is, you know, by all means, for the purpose it's meant for, is unbelievable. We had it sprung up. I actually use a 4-weight reel on my competition setup, and it's an 11-foot loop OptiPeak rod. And the rod is pretty sensitive, but I could tell the difference between the line that I took off to put the RIO line on. So much more sensitive. I felt the bottom much more. I felt the little bumps that we were getting. Obviously, I'm getting a little older, so my reaction time isn't as good as it used to be. So we probably missed a lot of fish because of it, but definitely not a blame on the line whatsoever. It's a very supple core, so it's really does what it's supposed to do, is letting you feel where your flies are at. And the best part, besides, you know, them sending this to us and letting us test it and review it, is the fact that they are made in the United States. So this is a USA made company. They're based in Idaho. They've been around for around 20 years, and just phenomenal products. So I'm hoping you know, the guys at RIO enjoy our video, and once we get some fishing involved, that they'll send us some other product. But they sent this to me after we spoke with them, and I explained, you know, this is kind of the fishing style that I use currently and that I have competed in the past. And this is what they sent, and I'm very thankful because it definitely a little different than what I had been fishing and what I was competing with. So over to the leader, also again made in the U.S., RIO Products, and this is their Technical Euro Nymph leader, and that's actually a really good length they have on here. It's 14 feet. When you have a line that doesn't react like their line does, where you don't feel the bumps or doesn't turn a fly over as well, you end up having like 20 or 25 feet depending on rod. So according to the rules, your leader and tippet cannot extend twice your rod. So I use an 11-foot rod, so I could have a 22-foot leader and basically never have fly line coming through my guides. With this line, it was completely different. So I felt everything, and I wanted that line out there. It loaded the rod correctly on distance casting, so if I really needed to reach the other end of a pool or a run to get near a bank, I didn't have to encroach the fish. So in other words, I stayed, you know, as far away from their food channel as I could, and was able to cast this line very well. And this leader also, you know, unbelievably well designed and built, because it also folded and rolled out the flies like it's supposed to, and it didn't allow them to crash into the water. And again, that sighter built into the leader is huge. You don't have to end up putting in a 12 or 16-inch piece of sighter material. Some guys run one solid color, some guys run two colors. But the fact that this is kind of a 4-section sighter was really nice. It was pink, yellow, pink, yellow. So as, again, depending on the depth of the water, and because I didn't extend the leader because I wanted to fish it the way that they sent it to us, without adding any extra leader to it besides a tippet. On the deeper pools, it was a little tough for me because I'm so used to fishing a much longer leader. So my sighter was normally higher on my setup. But as I got my drift down and the rod was starting to get into that 12 or 11 o'clock position in front of me, I was able to see that sighter no problem. On the first initial drift from, you know, the time the flies got into the water and I got it to the bottom, the sighter was disappeared for a little bit, and that's where that sighter on the end of your line comes in handy, because I was still able to watch where my leader was going, make sure my drift stayed correct, and I wasn't getting hung up on anything. And that also helped me identify a few bumps that I probably wouldn't have seen. I did feel, but they were so slight of a bump that I thought I was still bouncing on rocks on the bottom of the water. So again, we will record and reevaluate and review on the water both of these products, which again, just, you know, it's give you a close-up of the back here. There we go. So there's your taper and design. And again, this is a competition line, so it doesn't have a head like a normal floating or sinking line. This is pretty much a taper on one end, a taper on the other, and a body in the middle to help keep the correct drift, keep the flies where they're supposed to be, but loaded up and casted phenomenally. You really couldn't ask for a better competition style line. I know there's a lot of different manufacturers out there that make it. I had never fished a Rio competition line, and I'm giving you 100% thumbs up because you guys did a phenomenal job with the design, the build, everything from the inside to the out. There was no hang-ups. It was 34 degrees and raining yesterday. So it you know, it could have gotten pretty slick as far as ice buildup. Never had a problem. There was some ice in the water. Never had any problems. And again, with the heavier flies, it definitely did a much better job than any competition style line I've used. And even on the smaller flies that we did throw for a little bit, it had no problem loading the rod up to get the flies, you know, into the water where they needed to go. And that was one other thing that really impressed me, was it almost felt like I was throwing a line that was connected somehow that to where I wanted it to go, because I never had, you know, a stray cast. It all went, you know, within inches of where I wanted it to land. So that speaks volumes when you know there's fish there, you know you're trying to get to a certain point with that fly to get that correct drift to make them eat. So Rio, 100% thumbs up, great job on this one. Hopefully we can test another one for you guys in the near future, and we will definitely get you some fishing footage. But other than that, guys, we appreciate it checking out episode number 5, and we want to say Happy New Year. It is the 30th of December, so everybody enjoy New Year's Eve with your family and friends, and we will see you in 2020.